Company fucks over long-term employees and my boss's act of revenge helps me start a freelance media company for pennies on the dollar, by user darkforest_NW. Originally posted in r/anti-work, I was told to post it here. For legal reasons, I can't disclose the exact location, purely because the team I worked with were cool guys and our boss fucked over corporate really hard without them noticing. This took place in 2012. Part 1, The Fire Marshal. I worked at a smaller chain electronics store that sold top-of-the-line video cameras, PCs, cell phones, photo cameras, and this new thing called 4K televisions. For context, we were located at an expensive outlet mall. We were literally the only electronics store in the mall, and the only place for 50 miles that sold high-end electronics. Logic dictates that this in itself would make our location prime real estate and we would have record sales every year. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what happened and we basically killed it 5 years in a row. Furthermore, I got hired because I came into the store looking for some video equipment. The store manager was caught off guard by my advanced technical knowledge of camera technology because I kept asking him specific technical questions on certain models. Note this piece of information is relevant for the end of the story. So with that preamble out of the way, let's get into the heart of the story. While working the camera counter, the mall fire marshal came in and asked to see the store manager. Since I had no customers at that moment, I decided to take him to the back to meet my manager. This verbatim is what I can remember. Me, *K the fire marshal here? Manager, why? Me, don't know, want me to let him in the office? Manager, sure, give me a moment. Marshal, okay, mall management wanted me to ask when you want me to bring in the construction foreman. Me, what are we building something? Looking at my rather baffled boss. Manager, no. I didn't ask for a construction foreman. Marshal, well, aren't you aware of the new, overpriced clothing store, that's going to be built here? At that exact moment, I and the store manager looked at each other, then looked at the fire marshal, who handed my manager the work order on the brand new, overpriced clothing store, that was going to be built at our exact location, thus permanently ending the only high-end electronic store miles around. Part 2, Money Talks. A few days later, the manager held a store meeting with me and the rest of the team. Prior to this meeting, the manager gave me permission to tell the rest of our 12-person team about the incident with the fire marshal. So the manager confronted corporate about what was going on, and after some skillful verbal gymnastics, we got the whole story. Manager. So I called corporate to ask what's happening and I'll tell you straight. Overpriced clothing store has been trying for 10 years to get a spot at this outlet mall. They went to every store with a buyout offer for the storefront. The CEO of this electronic chain was approached by overpriced clothing store with a massive check in the millions to break our lease and hand over the storefront to them. We weren't supposed to know any of this. Corporate wanted us to be in the dark right up until the last day 2 weeks from today. Yep, everyone was fucking pissed. In fact, we were so angry that all of us did the absolute bare minimum, this included the manager. In 1 week, we tanked our own sales by 70%, corporate freaked out and sent a hatchet man to talk to the store. This doofus was confused why we weren't giving it a 110% and was surprised we got visibly angry when he informed us that we wouldn't be getting severance pay or a letter of recommendation. My manager very politely told him to leave and that he would take care of the situation himself. Part 3, Oops, my finger slipped. After the hatchet man was banished from our store, the manager took a close look at the management handbook and noticed a little snafu that was written into the book in regards to discretionary discounts. Mainly that the store manager has permission to discount any product in the store up to 90% off. And the offset of the cost will be absorbed at the end of the year discretionary cost analysis. Yes, you read that last sentence correctly, and the wonderful part of the story is that the store was being shut down by the end of February. So another store meeting was held. The manager told us that 2 days before our last day we were having a secret 90% off sale just for the employees and their family. When I heard this, I asked the question everyone was thinking. Me, so let me get this straight, this includes every single item in this store? Manager, yep, in fact, what you guys can do is pick out everything you want now, and set up a little pile in the back room. Make sure you guys labeled everything and I'll include the premium service warranties for free. Well, I decided to do some shopping. Newfangled 240Hz 4K TV, 4K camera system, 3x5HR spare batteries, 5x 128GB SD cards, shotgun XLR microphone, laptop, 2x1 TB external portable drives, a tripod, car tripod, underwater camera housing, an action camera, a large capacity camera bag, and custom shoulder strap camera plate system. But wait, there's more. The manager told me I could have any of the HDMI and mini display port cables that are currently attached to the showroom TV/computer displays. On the day of the secret 90% off sale, we all showed up 2 hours early from the back entrance and bought our items. With tax, I paid about $1,153.69 for about $13,000 worth of brand new electronics, and in essence, gave me the necessary tools to start my own media business. As one final fuck you to corporate, the manager gave all of us a phone number to a caseworker at the local unemployment office who was sympathetic to our cause. Part 4. I have never seen this man before in my life. Well, flash forward to March 2013, and I'm carefully navigating my freelance media company into a nice stream of steady work. I get an unknown phone call from a law firm representing the electronics company. Apparently, $400,000 worth of electronics were mistakenly sold at a 90% discount, and they wanted to know if I had any information on where I could find my manager. The following conversation is what I can recall to the best of my memory. Me: may I ask why you need to know this information? Law firm: well, we believed that he woefully misused his discount privileges. Me: okay, but could you answer a question for me first? Law firm: sure. Me: why did your client, the CEO of an electronic chain, take a multi-million-dollar check to break a lease on his own business and not properly inform the store staff of its impending closure? Dead silence. Me: hello? Law firm: sorry to bother you, sir. And that was it. The moral of the story: don't fuck over your employees. P.S. Boss, if you reading this, take comfort in the fact that none of us has sold you out, and I hope you are living a wondrous life. Update. Corrections from the editor and clarifications. First, the cameras. I got a Handycam video camera and an X5 still camera. I traded them both for Sony FDR-AX100 a couple years later. I was checking my camera storage to see if I still had my old camera, and found my Sony FDR-AX100. Which is a 4K model but wasn't released back in 2012, so sorry for the confusion. The great irony was JVC released JVC GYHMQ10 a few months later after the store shut down, and I would have killed for that camera. TV correction. Yes, the first generation 4K TV from Sony was $70,000, however, there was models I've seen at the time that sold from $16,000 to $20,000. Just Google first 4K TV prices. Why so expensive? Because manufacturing cost wasn't under control yet. But I apologize, my TV I got was HD, not 4K, it was Sony XBR-HX950, it was this weird mutant hybrid HD TV with motion flow tech that made it go from 240 Hz to 480 Hz. I traded this as for a Sony X series in 2014 and then traded that for a TCL HDR model in 2018. What happened to my boss? Basically, he moved out of state. He was an older gent, I think he was about 60 years old, because he told me how he got into electronics in the late 1980s, early 1990s. Started at CompUSA, then Gateway 2000, Circuit City, Fry's, and finally the store I worked at. So my guess is probably retired now, and honestly I have no clue what his legal situation is. But we all loved him because we were broke as fuck at that time and had no loyalty to corporate. As for my media business, I started shooting videos, a lot of music concerts, weddings, and corporate videos. Then once everyone and the mother got a movie camera on their cell phone, I switched over to video editing and motion graphics. I also do studio photography for various products for small startup companies or local shops. I used the blanket term media business because it's to simplify the weird evolution I went through. The one piece of advice I can give for people who want to start one is to look at what UHD resolutions are going to become standard in the next 5 to 6 years and plan your tech purchases from there. That's it for me. I'm going to leave the original story as is, and not edit anything. I don't want to be accused of making stuff up. One last thing, a while back I did write a story about my very brief adventure at Best Buy. I deleted it because it was poorly written and it was just a diatribe against this really cunty and incompetent manager I had. I decided to bite the bullet and go full-time with my media company. I'm happy at the fact that I don't need to work retail anymore. Again, I like to stress this happened a decade ago, so I apologize if my dates aren't 100% accurate. I'm just trying as best I can to remember everything. But this all took place in 2012. Make my coworkers cry. I will help karma turn your life upside down, by _ice. Backstory: I worked at this hotel for over 2 years and was one of 2 people left that went through the training when our hotel changed hotel franchises. During this training we were told about certain rules the company had. Cast, manager, front desk manager. He only was here for 4 to 6 months at this point. Me, I am a nice guy unless you are a bully or entitled person. A few others I will mention as we go through. Story: one afternoon I was scheduled to work second shift 3 to 11. I walked in and both AM front desk co-workers looked like they had been massively crying as their makeup was smeared. My manager looking quite pissed. I ask, "What's wrong?" Manager: "We have a major jerk as a guest. This guy is the highest level on the rewards for the hotel chain. He is very demanding and wants free upgrades, free this or that, and screams anytime he has an interaction with the staff. This guy has made every department call me complaining about him. Now this guy just came to the desk and screamed at these 2 co-workers until they both were crying. These 2 ladies were fresh high school graduates and were very sweet and innocent people. They loved helping people and didn't deserve this treatment." As he is explaining this, I look up this guy's room details. Once my manager finishes explaining everything this guy had done, I see this guy's info. I had a smile from ear to ear. I reply, "Didn't you see he is an employee of a different hotel?" Manager: "Yes, but so what?" I replied, "First off, while you travel as an employee you are required to behave and be respectful. It is in the fine print on the discount form." I grabbed his form and showed it to the manager. Failure to be respectful can lead to having your employee discount suspended or permanently revoked, and even get you terminated. You need to call this guy's hotel and ask for the GM, then explain to him who you are and what this guy is doing. I look up the hotel phone number and call the hotel and then handed my manager the phone. Manager: after his call ends with the GM, he has an evil and satisfying smile on his face. His GM is steaming mad after I described all the stuff this guy has done. Main switchboard phone rings. I answered, "Hello, thank you for calling hotel name, how may I direct your call?" Caller: "I want to speak to entitled jerk's room please." I replied, "Absolutely sir, have a nice day." Transfer the call and looked at my manager and saying with a sarcastic tone, "Someone wanted to talk to entitled jerk, gee I wonder who that could be." Manager continues: "After he stopped laughing the GM gave me his personal cell phone number and said if I have any more issues at all to call him immediately. I am leaving the phone number next to the switchboard, if you need it call him." I told manager, "Your revenge is done, now for my revenge." Manager wide-eyed: "Oh crap, what are you going to do?" Me smiling a very evil smile, "You'll see." I pick up the phone to make a call. "Hello, Hotel Rewards customer service. Yes, I would like to report someone using reward account while using employee discount on his stay. Customer service: "He can't do that." I replied, "I know, I am calling to report him." I gave her the guest reservation number and rewards member number. I continued, "I bet anything if you dig through this guy's history you will find all his stays are probably at employee discount." Customer service: "I am starting a ticket to have this guy's account investigated." I replied, "Thank you." Then hang up the phone. The manager watched as I then remove his rewards number from his stay. My manager had a huge grin on his face that was awesome. I explain, "Oh, I am not quite finished with him yet, it is time to go spread the news to all departments. He is no longer a rewards member." I made a new key for his room without concierge access. I walked around to every department. As I explained why I was stopping by, everyone had the same reaction as soon as I mentioned the guy's name. Oh god, now what about this a hole? I finished explaining how he was no longer a reward member and if he gives anyone issues to call the front desk immediately, and his GM already probably tore him a new one just a minute ago. Everyone was so happy at this news. I finally went to the concierge room, used the guest new key to void his current key. Then I walked into the room and explained the information to the evening concierge. She cringed at the mention of his name, after explaining she would not have to deal with him again, and asked her to leave the morning person a note about this guy not allowed in the concierge room anymore. She was very happy. While I was gone, evidently the manager explained what we did to the 2 AM front desk ladies. The minute I got back to the desk, both my front desk coworkers all came up to me and gave me a huge hug and thanked me so many times. Manager to me after the other coworkers went home, "Do me a huge favor please." I replied, "Sure, what's up?" Manager, "If I ever piss you off, please come tell me so I can fix the issue." Later that night, entitled jerk comes to the desk, hat in hand, politely saying his key doesn't work. I replied, "Oh, so sorry about that, let me make you a new key." In the best fake smile, I can muster. Aftermath, next day I check his rewards account and it is now suspended. Check back next week, sorry, account number not found. Park your car in a danger zone. Good luck to find it back, by user Captain Bayo Bayo. Compulsory, not US, not English speaker, not my story, 90s, edit for typo. This is the story of Mike. Mike managed the warehouse of a hospital. Said hospital was built in the 50s in the center of the town. The stadium is on one side, the justice hall in another and schools on a third side. There is also a caserne and 2 other medical buildings around. So the streets are crowded with cars searching for a parking. One day, when opening the gate of the landing dock, Mike noticed a little car parked in the hospital internal court, near the 2000L liquid oxygen tank. That model of tank. Of course it is absolutely forbidden, because it was a small Italian car. No advertisement. But it was the kind commonly used as second car or to travel in the Dolomite Mountains where the roads are very narrow. So Mike makes some calls. The car is not owned by someone of the warehouse or the nursing staff. No doctor have such a small car. The reception made public announcements asking visitors to move the badly parked car, to no avail. By 18H, the car is gone. Okay, problem solved. The day after, the car is there yet. Same calls with same result. Mike called the police. But the police cannot make it towed because it is a private place. And towering company won't do it without a police query. By chance, that day only lorries came to unload medical materials. When it is time to close the warehouse, the car is gone once more. On the third day, when the landing dock open, the car is already there. And now that is a real problem. A 35T truck from Germany must come this day. There is no way it can reach the dock without tilting the car and the liquid oxygen tank. It has become a clear and present problem of security. All the warehouse team exchanged ideas on what to do, but all feasible solutions have already been tried. It is when someone from maintenance team passed on a forklift with a pallet of plaster bags. It struck everybody at the same time, there is no way the Italian car could weigh more than 1 ton of plaster. So Mike go see the forklift driver while the team search for a wood pallet. Slowly, with many precautions, the forklift slided the pallet under the car, lift the hole, and went drop the car off the nearby street. In the first 10 minutes, the police is warned that a car is parked in the middle of the street blocking the traffic. The said car is towed away in less than a half hour. The truck had no problem maneuvering. 2 days later, rumors ran the hospital, it was the car of the director's wife. She worked in a medical building some streets away. While everybody found that Mike made a good move, they wait to see what will follow. It is now a global problem of management. Mike is called to the direction. As soon as he passed the door, he started to explain, yes. I know it is your wife's car. But the director went, what? No. I called you for an entirely other matter. I warned my wife several times. She had it coming, that C/NT*. Until the hospital closed 20 years after, the story has been repeated to each new worker and each medical student. Put your car on a tree if you want. But don't park in the landing dock court. Because Mike will make it disappear. Topsy-turvy, by user of Pearl Sand Swine. Reposting my story originally submitted to r/Sudden Sugar Daddy. I started dating a girl about 7 years ago. When we met she was getting up on her feet and trying to find her way in life. I let my imagination take over and started envisioning her potential and what kind of life we would have together. I had never had the feeling of disarmed punch-drunk love that I had for her, and that probably clouded my judgment. Throughout our time together she would reach out and ask for money for things, repairing a car, paying a bill, etc. We were getting closer the longer we dated, and I would always help her, assuming that I was making an investment in both of our lives by helping her through a period of instability. In all I probably gave her about $15,000. After about 4 years of this I finally popped the question. She accepted and we were married after a brief engagement. About 6 months into our marriage she told me she had been having car trouble and needed about $2,000 for the repair. This struck me as a bit odd. By that time I was more than familiar with her vehicle and knew her explanation for what the issue was didn't make sense. One evening after she went to sleep I went and had a look at the part of the car she had said was faulty. No issue. This set off alarms. I grabbed her phone and, on a hunch, typed in the amount she had asked for and it returned a text message with a guy she had previously dated. Apparently he had reached out and asked for help repairing his car, and lo and behold he had asked for the same amount she had requested from me. My stomach turned as the thought entered my mind that maybe I had subsidized other of this guy's expenses across the time I had dated my wife. As I read through the messages further, I realized that this guy was the Lester Diamond to my Sam Rothstein, and I had been played like a fool. Look up that reference if you're not familiar. I had spent my entire relationship as a proxy sugar daddy. I thought on this for a few weeks and tried to figure out what to do next. These sacrifices were not insignificant to me. I had been working as a surgical resident for much of our courtship, making very little money and working long hours to form a strong, solid foundation for our future. This was devastating, and I realized that I couldn't reconcile the situation. Once I had cooled down, I waited for an evening my wife went to bed early and I got into her phone. I caught up on the most recent messages she and her paramour had sent one another. Then I initiated a conversation with him. I posed as her and told him she had been drinking, she is a recovering alcoholic, and that she needed to get some things off her chest. I didn't go overboard, but I did send messages to the effect that she was not over him and that her affections had grown since marrying me. I all but teed him up to move in for a relationship with her. I then abruptly ended the chat and asked that we not talk about the conversation again in order to avoid furthering her relapse, but that we both keep in mind what we had spoken about and see if we could make a life together work. I then deleted the texts from her phone and hoped the two would proceed forward together. They did. I kept an eye on the texts for the next few months and progressively saw things heat up between them until it looked like she was committed to leaving me. We didn't have many assets together at the time as I was still finishing a surgical residency, so I knew the divorce would be quick and painless and that we would go our separate ways and she would start a new life with the guy whose underachievements I had been funding. So I filed for divorce and had her served papers. I was generous with the $10,000 in assets between us in order to make the split as quick as possible and went on our ways to begin life anew. And you'd think that is the end of the story, right? Oh no, friend, you see, Mama didn't raise a kook. In our state, not only are assets separated upon marital severance, but so are debts. And medical school is fucking expensive, really expensive, $250,000 expensive. So, the bitch ended up with a parting gift of about $125,000 of my student loans. And guess who she shotgun married 2 months after our divorce? Fortunately for her, she'll only have to pay half of that amount, because if history does indeed repeat itself, he'll be paying the other half once their marriage ends as well. It was all I could do to not send them a piggy bank as a wedding gift. Best $15,000 I ever spent. No show to a corporate meeting? We'll see about that, by user Rusty Sacks. I'm not sure if this belongs here at ProRevenge or in a different Reddit sub, please let me know if it does, but here it is anyway. The cast, note that none of these names are real, they're all pseudonyms to meet guidelines. Brooke, my sister. Angie, accounting girl. Mark, milquetoast boss. Victor, vice president of operations. This story is about my sister's first job after graduating from college with a bachelor's degree in business management back in the middle 70s. She was hired by that recording tape company whose advertising tagline was, "Is it real, or is it?" Anyway, her job was the travel coordinator for both the sales and tech support teams out in the field to come to the corporate offices periodically for various types of meetings or training, depending on the field employee's specialty. Brooke's responsibilities included booking airline flights, hotels, rental cars, approving per diems, and other travel-related upfront arrangements. It didn't take her long to figure out that there were a lot of no-shows, particularly from the sales staff, who always seemed to have some valid excuse not to make it to the meeting, and often with last-minute cancellations, I've just booked this golf game with my most important client this week, so can you reschedule me, type of reasons. Seeing how these cancellations were costing the company big bucks, Brooke hatched a plan that created class rosters for each class, and would, just like a teacher, make notes as to who showed up and who didn't. After the class was over, she would calculate how much those who didn't show up had cost the company in terms of cancellation fees, missed flights, etc., and present them to Mark. His reaction, typical of a middle manager protecting his little fiefdom, would take her report, tell her I'll look into it, throw it into his inbox and then promptly forget about it. My sister has a tremendous amount of patience, unless you're being stupid, which, in this case, Mark was, as far as she was concerned. Fast forward a couple of months, the reports are still stacked on top of each other in Mark's inbox, and Brooke's getting real frustrated because these field guys are abusing the time and effort she's putting in while attempting to get them in for their required classes. So one day, Brooke's having lunch in the company cafeteria along with a gal from corporate accounting. They get to talking, and Angie mentions that she's noticed the travel department's expenses are really high, percentage-wise, compared to others, and asks if Brooke has any idea why. Well, that was all it took. My sister unloaded her frustration with all the cancellations with no repercussions, thus sending the travel department's budget off the charts, not to mention the fact she wasn't getting any support from Mark towards reducing the numbers. Brooke tells Angie she's got an idea to put an end to the waste, but she wants to get approval from somebody higher up the food chain in order to implement her idea, because she doubts Mark's ability to comprehend, let alone implement. Angie tells Brooke that she thinks she knows exactly who Brooke needs to talk to, and within a couple of days Brooke and Angie are sitting in a plush corner office talking to the Vice President of Operations, Victor, explaining the situation. It only took Victor a couple of minutes to make a decision after Brooke described what was going on, plus her idea on how to correct it, and he told Angie that Brooke's idea was brilliant, and that the policy change would become effective on the 1st of month, 10 days later, which he followed up with a memorandum sent to all employees shortly after their meeting was over. Paydays were the 5th and the 20th. Those in the field who had expense accounts had to complete and turn them into accounting by the 5th to be processed and paid along with regular wages, bonuses, and commissions on the 20th. Brooke's policy change idea, with the Victor's blessing, was to charge back against the offender's expense account the costs associated with getting him to his corporate meeting when he didn't show up, airline fares, hotel rooms, rental cars, etc. Sis told me that the first month the policy went into effect, the howls of protest could be heard all over Silicon Valley, as several ended up with minuscule paychecks after the chargebacks. But the policy had exactly the results Brooke wanted. Within 3 months, everyone showed up to their meetings on time as scheduled and virtually without any more no-shows. Epilogue: some adjustments were made to the policy during Sis's tenure, one of them being that if you knew in advance that you couldn't make a scheduled meeting, as long as it was a minimum of 2 weeks' notice, she could then reschedule without penalties. Other situations, such as medical emergencies, were judged on a case-by-case basis, but required documentation to prevent the chargeback. Sis only worked at this company about 18 months before a headhunter stole her away to be the plant manager's administrative assistant when the microchip manufacturer that's in practically everybody's personal computer decided to build a new facility outside of Silicon Valley. She told her new boss she wasn't moving unless he could find her husband a job within the company, and he did, so they did, and they've been in that area ever since. My sister has had a great career, and I'm very proud of her. Edit to add clarification, per my sister's input. 1. Meetings/trainings were held bi-monthly. But with sales and tech support staff spread over 3 continents, it would often take a year before the same employee would be required to come to a meeting/training at corporate headquarters. 2. Employees were initially notified of their upcoming meeting 6 weeks in advance, with a second notice going out at 4 weeks, a third notice going out at 2 weeks, and a fourth notice going out 1 week in advance. Brooke did not tolerate the excuse "I didn't know about the meeting" from the slackers. She still doesn't tolerate that type of excuse to this day, even from her grown children. She has a reputation for being scrupulously honest and fair, but also believes in the consequences of play stupid games, win stupid prizes when it comes to shenanigans. 3. She was given a travel budget to work with, and, because her and I both are offspring of a certified public accountant, we learned very early in life to pay close attention to expenses. This background helped her spot the escalating travel costs due to cancellations, no refund policies, etc. due to the no-shows, thus leading to her motivation to bring her department's budget back in line. She's always been very conservative about money management, which has led to her and her husband being able to enjoy retirement without financial worries. 4. Brooke did not teach any of the meeting/training seminars. Her duties at these events consisted of making sure the facilities were set up appropriately for the type of class, checking participants in, and other, similar tasks. Actual seminars were taught by corporate training staff. 5. As noted in the original story, sales staff were the worst offenders when it came to no-shows. Tech support people were rarely missing in action, per Brooke. The golf reference was simply an example of the type of excuses used for not attending that she would receive. 6. It should be noted again that the chargebacks for not showing up when scheduled were not deducted from the employee's basic wages and commissions, they were simply charged back to the employee's submitted expense reports. By not showing up, the employee was stealing from the company the costs of getting that employee to corporate headquarters. This policy change put an end to that quickly. 7. Also, as noted in the introduction, I don't really know if this belongs in this Reddit sub. If it belongs elsewhere in another work-related sub, I would be grateful for suggestions.